Everybody, welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today, I'm very happy to bring back my insightful panel with Ryan Patrick Burns and Gary Michael May-McGill. Before we start, for those of you who are not familiar, let me tell you a little bit about them. Ryan Patrick Burns began researching the Uintah Basin and the mysterious Skinwalker Ranch years ago. But when his passion for answers could no longer be quenched, he left his corporate job in Salt Lake City and moved to the desolate and remote basin to investigate the ranch full time. Ryan now owns property overlooking the ranch, and he hosts the popular podcast Hero Paranormal. And he's also written about his experiences investigating Skinwalker. Gary Michael May-McGill is an American actor, entertainer, singer, songwriter, filmmaker, comedian, producer, editor, activist, psychic medium, and his mission is to spread love into the universe. His YouTube channel is called Camp G-May, and it is an original music video jukebox, an elaborate mixture of Gary Michael May and Tribe Sunshine. Gary Michael May-McGill also hosts an open mic jam live stream, 7 p.m. to midnight PST, every Saturday night. Everyone is welcome to play a tune on the open mic virtual stage, just hang out and make some friends. Camp G-May and Gary Michael also host live virtual festivals and concerts, and he is always looking for new artists to join and collaborate. Today, we're going to talk about Roswell, the incident of July 1947. All of the links are featured below in the description. Please do check me out, subscribe to my channels, leave me a comment, like my videos, and share my content with your friends. And I'm happy to announce that you can now join my YouTube channel to take advantage of my perks and help to support the channel. So thank you all for joining us. And we're just waiting for Ryan, but I'm happy to bring on G. How you doing, Gary? Nice to see you again.
I'm doing fantastic, Karen. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you, as always. I always look forward to the panels that we do. And there's Ryan. He's coming along. He's putting on his headphones. Awesome. Hey, Ryan. Nice to see you. Sorry, I'm rushing you, aren't I?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Good to see you, Ryan.
Good to see you, Gary. How are you?
Fantastic.
So today we're going to talk. Sorry, it was a dream. Today we're going to talk about the Roswell crash of 1947. I know it's been talked about a lot, but with new information that comes out, and of course we have different perspectives, so it's always very interesting to delve into it. And Gary's done a lot of work getting images ready to bring on the screen a little later. And Gary, I'll just let you bring on the images as you see fit. And just wondering, what I know about Roswell is basically something crashed in 1947, and the papers first came out and said, oh, it's a flying saucer. We found a flying saucer. I know the image I have for the show is not a flying saucer. I use the egg since that's become really popular. We don't really know if it was a saucer or an egg, actually, right? Do we? So then the next day it got sanitized, and they said, oh, it's just a weather balloon, nothing to see here. It's what they've been saying, for almost 100 years, nothing to see here. But Gary, do you want to talk a bit about your take on the whole thing?
When it comes to Roswell, it's like, even to this day, when you look it up and you go to Wikipedia, they still claim that there never was a UFO that crashed and that it was a weather balloon. This guy right here, right? Mm-hmm. With his tinfoil weather balloon. Which is kind of crazy because everyone knows that that's not the case. People were reporting it like there's a German, but people were reporting about it all over the world. The cat was out of the bag, and then they just really tried to backpedal on the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's so obvious that that wasn't true,
Mm-hmm. There's more to the story. I bet Ryan, you've got some gems to offer regarding Roswell.
I don't know. I am a lot like everyone else in that there's a lot of synchronicities there. I've gone out and researched the debris field. One of the debris fields, of course, there's the corona, then there's the anyway, there's multiple sites, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I found some things with some other researchers. Among those things, I have it in my office here, actually, is a circa 1947 military issue belt buckle. That this is a mountainous particularly mountainous area where we were looking, and there was no real reason for military to be in that area. And what I've been told by people that are more experts about this case than I am is that there was an extreme cleanup effort after they came through. And so to find a military belt buckle that is right there where one of these debris fields allegedly was is either highly synchronistic or just a coincidence. And I think it's also coincidental that June 24th, 1947, so that would have been, the same year, private pilot Kenneth Arnold was the first guy to kind of coin that term flying saucer when he saw these things sort of skipping along. And then, of course, we have the flying disc and the Roswell incident with the recovery of debris near Roswell, New Mexico. So I don't think it was swamp gas. I think we recovered something. And I think that it may have a lot more to do with a lot of stuff that people aren't willing to look at.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean,
absolutely.
I myself don't really know what to believe, but what I do tend to believe is people who have been in the military, they are highly trained, highly skilled individuals. They're not the kind of folks that make stuff up. They can't, because their job and their career depends on accuracy, and they don't, they're not fabricators of reality. They're very much, this is what I saw, this is, what happened. And there have been enough of them who have come forward and talked about that this was a real thing. So whether it was a UFO or whether it was some kind of a transdimensional apparatus, who knows? There's enough military people who have come forward, some later rather than sooner, because they were under I guess, NDAs, and their career would be jeopardized if they started, telling everybody. And, I believe what they say. I don't think they would make it up. They're not that sort, And so that's sort of my take on it. I think it was a real thing. I think it was. But of course, I don't have proof.
Well, there's no doubt that when you take a look at history and you take a look at 1947, 1920, the 1800s, the 1700s, and go back 1,000 years and another 1,000, all of a sudden we have come late 70s, we have this huge influx of technology. Like it just came from nowhere. No, it didn't. It come from the UFOs that crashed, and they got the information from. I mean, that's what I believe. Fiber optics, laser, digital medium, LED display, integrated circuit board. I mean, the list just goes on and on. And the crazy thing about it is they actually sat on it for a while and compartmentalized it all. Okay. And 100% in control of it all. And it all starts with the World Wide Web, you know, in the sense that anything that is put on the World Wide Web is controlled by DARPA and the Pentagon. Those are the people that funded it. You know, they compartmentalized the informations out to the companies that they had in their own back pocket. And then they put these puppets on it. Like when you look at Facebook or X or any of these platforms that are actually on the internet, those are just puppet faces, because the government, even though it's on the internet, the government can go in there and manipulate it and watch it and do anything they want. There's no privacy, and they can take it off the internet anytime they want. So they have to give you this illusion that, hey, you know, Mark Zuckerberg, he's the owner of Facebook. And no, not really. They just compartmentalized it out to him, so they have a puppet beyond the face. And, you know, one of the reasons is for control, and another reason is money. We all got that LED wristwatch. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
They're like $5 when they first came out. Hey, look, I got a digital wristwatch, you know? And then boom, it goes on and on and on. It goes to the caller ID, to this, to the dial-up modem, to this, to that. They actually, like, you know how you have your iPad and it has everything on it? They could have gave you that in 1980, but they didn't, because, like I said, they want to compartmentalize it out. And the freakiest thing is, if you knew what they had now, you wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Man, truer words were never spoken, Gary. That it's so true. I what you said about the iPad. There's a gentleman who Karen may know named he has so many aliases now. I don't know which name to call him. His name is Shane. He's known as the Ruiner. And he alleges exactly what you said, Gary, that when he was a kid, they were grooming him to be in I don't even want to say, but they were grooming him to be part of the New World Order. And he basically had his whole life set out in front of him, and they gave him, exactly like you said, they gave him an iPad when these things didn't exist. And he said, it's exactly like the iPads we have now. And which I believe is the truth. You know, I was told by a friend of mine to watch the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson, because I saw it years and years ago. And he said, you should watch it again. And I said, I don't know. And he said, you know, with everything that you know now, if you watch that movie now, it will utterly terrify you. And I've got it on the agenda, but I'm a little scared. You know, I'd rather watch a slack flick. But, you know, when you retrace the steps of that 509th Bomb Group in Roswell and the 8th Air Force Group, and specifically the poor old farmer, Brazel, you know, that saw this thing and got debriefed, you know, 10 ways from Sunday. Something interesting is that he showed up with a brand new red truck after all this. And everybody in the small little community thought this was really interesting. That here a guy sees a craft, then he says he doesn't, then he's not sure, and then he shows up with a brand new bright red truck. And these things are all very coincidental.
Absolutely. You know, that's what they do through their media and television and stuff. Whenever, you know, I think that whenever something gets close to getting hit on the head, information wise, they blow it up and they put it on their movies or their television and make it, oh, you're watching too much movies. You're watching too much television. They manipulate it to make it seem like it's just, like, oh, look, just come, there's no UFO that crashed. Just come by some little UFO bobblehead. You've been watching too much TV, That's a way they kind of diffuse things that kind of get exposed. They turn it into a movie, and then that way people are like, oh, well, that's a movie. That's not real. You know what I mean? That type of situation.
I just want to take a quick second to say hi to Denise and Lisa Noel. Nice to have you both with us in the live chat. Nice to have you.
Absolutely, Denise and Lisa, thank you so much for being here.
So, oh my gosh, this is a big topic, and I gotta say that I think I see it as being like a pivot point. We've had a lot of information come out from all kinds of sources, legitimate and maybe not so legitimate, throughout time since Roswell. Actually, there was a recovery, I think, in 1933 in Italy, which we didn't actually. We didn't. We did. Yes, exactly. And then of course Roswell is, I think, probably the most famous, and people have been speculating ever since. So let's talk a little bit about why the powers that be, if it was indeed a off-world or interdimensional craft that crashed, what are the reasons they would not want us to know about it?
I think, and I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I think they're deflecting attention away from the power that we all have within ourselves, the inherent power to connect with non-human intelligence, higher powers, cosmic intelligences, whatever you want to call that. This has always been something that the powers that be try to keep out of the hands of the people. And we had very interesting individuals doing something called the Babylon Working, L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons, who were following in the footsteps of Aleister Crowley, who was following in the footsteps of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and it keeps going and going and going. But interestingly, with that particular couple of guys, L. Ron Hubbard, a Scientologist, and Jack Parsons, one of the fathers of the space age, these guys were doing something to invoke entities into our reality, and very much entities that appeared to be a lot like Greys, like Lamb, a character that Aleister Crowley first drew, the closest thing to an alien Grey anybody had ever seen. And I think that the government wants to keep us from believing that we have a direct line of communication to any of these non-human intelligences. It's interesting because a recently revealed Pentagon review conducted by AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, recently indicated that the U.S. military was spreading fake UFO stories to conceal classified weapons programs. And of course, they're pointing at Roswell and a bunch of other stuff, Area 51. They're saying it was all fake. We were just doing that to cover for stealth technology. And that's really easy to do later, but at the time, when you have dozens of personnel and boots on the ground and a huge, massive cover-up, it doesn't seem as likely. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's no doubt that control is one reason. Another is financial. There's been so much money that's been made from video games to, we all have that dial-up modem, right? Didn't need any of that. Those were just all, just the compartmentalization of knowledge, and it's still happening. We're not at the final product yet. You know what I'm saying? But this is, like I said, where, we were like, primitive 70 years ago, primitive sticks and stones, and you look around now because of this technology that they found from these crashed UFOs, and you see also too how it controls everyone and keeps everyone docile. Because I forget where I was the other day, but I was like in a waiting room or something, and I look around and every single person in that waiting room is doing this with that little piece of plastic. Everyone's calm. There's no ruckus. Everybody's in line. Everybody's waiting patiently. 40 years ago when you waited, you're like, oh, come on, hurry up. People didn't have patience because, they didn't have that little device to keep them, almost like a nipple, Here you go. Have a seat in the corner, So the control is a big factor. The financial is a big factor. And it's just crazy that to this day, like I said, when you look up Roswell, you look up Area 51, you look at all that, they'll tell you straight to your face that, nope, never happened. You're out of control. It was a weather balloon. So, and then you get stuff like, like this, the autopsy, where it's like, this to me only helps the propaganda that it is fake, putting out stuff like that, because it's like, you can tell, look how fast the camera's moving. It's wiggling. It's quirky, jerky, instead of, there's no audio, that's kind of strange, right? Start sawing off the guy's brain. I mean, it's stuff like this that doesn't give it any credibility. You know what I mean? It diffuses the notion that it might be real, It's ridiculous.
It really is. Another aspect to this is the whole religious/spiritual part of it. So for a long time, people were in fear of their mortal souls, and that was all controlled by the churches and by religion.
Yes.
And we were told that there was good beings that were interdimensional, that were angels, and there were bad that were called demons. And we had to be very careful all the time and stay close to the church and never commit a sin, which basically super intense social control, right? So then, we start having contact, for lack of a better word. And throughout the last 100 years, that has sort of evolved from thinking it was some little guys getting into a spaceship and flying all the way here from Zeta Reticuli or whatever. And now it's sort of morphed into the transdimensional or interdimensional way of looking at it. But again, social control. So the other part of this is that, you don't ever want to be cast as evil within your community, because you'll be shunned and you'll lose your community, and you kind of have to tote the line. But a strong part of that is also the whole concept of insanity. So the quickest way, at least I have found, to discredit myself, except around thinking people, is to start talking about UFOs and ETs and stuff right away. You're written off as being a crazy person. And again, there are many, many organizations and people who claim that extraterrestrials or interdimensionals are demons, and they are here, to cause rack and ruin. In some ways, the story hasn't changed a whole lot. It's still being used as propaganda, as fear, as social control. And my opinion, I'll just state it plainly, is that if ET or the transdimensional beings were going to harm us, we would have seen evidence of that a long time ago. And I have never, ever had anything to show me that extraterrestrials are somehow like humans. Humans are super cruel. Humans will go kill each other if they're told to. Humans will do all kinds of horrible, despicable things for money or for power. I've never heard of any evidence of ETs actually harming us, and we would have known by now if they were here to harm us. So I just wanted to throw that whole sort of religious social control aspect of the phenomenon out there as well.
Wow, Karen, that was said so eloquently. That is just perfect, because I believe that 100%, it conflicts with the whole religion type thing, whether you're a Muslim or a Buddhist or this and that. A UFO flies down and lands and some aliens walk out. All of a sudden, that contradicts your religion. So it's just crazy too, with all these abduction stories too. There's just a zillion of them,
It's wild. I want to apologize for being late, but it kind of goes into what we're discussing with abductions and UFOs, and that there was an experiment taking place at a property I manage up in the Uinta Basin of Utah, known as, it's kind of a little science base camp. And we had a psionics experiment with one individual who actually does like support groups for people that have these abduction scenarios or contact experiences, and they're having troubles in real life. And this individual, Eric Mitchell, another woman, Heidi, another woman, Shasta, and another experiencer that will remain unnamed, and another guy. And interestingly, the whole psionics thing, the new term for like ESP, communicating with these things, right? These craft, these non-human intelligences. The psionics experiments are all about bringing down these craft, like literally landing and engaging with these cosmic intelligences. Well, interestingly, the reason I was late is I was on the phone because this wealthy individual who was one of the people there in a big RV, he's missing. And this person, he was telling me that he went off planet. And so we've got a little bit of a problem here. You have somebody saying they went off planet, but then in the real world, he's actually missing at the moment. So where do those things line up? And it kind of, in summary, not to get me out of being late, but it's kind of at the core of what we're discussing. And, the reality that it seems like the military does, in fact, employ disinformation. And like Gary said, they always get ahead of this stuff. The best way to delegitimize something is to make it look ridiculous. And that's exactly what they do. They make the fake videos. They make the fake landing sites. They are in the business of disinformation. If they can control the narrative and then later point out where it's wrong, then they think that the whole discussion just got removed off the table. And we've seen this time and time again with the Benowitz case, with the Dulce case. We have these, well, for lack of a better word, mirage men, right? Spin doctors that cast this hazy fog over everything, and then everybody says, "Oh, that's all just hooey," and then they can go on doing what they're doing. And like Gary said, nowadays I think people are becoming aware. And Karen, your words were so true. I mean, when it came to religion, the biggest issue Rome ever had was like these Christians that they kept feeding to the lions and throwing in the Colosseum, and the Christians didn't care because they were under the idea that this reality is not everything there is. And it was driving Rome crazy because the threat of death no longer held any weight with these people. And what ended up happening? Eventually, Rome converted to Christianity. And I think the same is true for any religion. If you just believe that this reality is not everything, all of a sudden your power exponentially grows.
Yeah.
I find that this is just my personal opinion, but one of the most powerful things we can do for ourselves in these trying and confusing times is to really do the work we need to do so that we're no longer afraid of death. If we're no longer afraid of death, there's nothing anybody can hold over us. And also, same as if we have faith in our ability to create what we need. You know what I mean? Whether you're doing it through law of attraction or whether you just have belief in yourself that you can do it, you can find work, you can get food, you can get the things that you need. I think those are really important points. Unfortunately, most people want to slumber in comfort. They do not want to go through the discomfort of doing, self-examination, becoming a critical thinker. I find that every once in a while I go through another whole level of detox. I just came through one where I understand certain things, I believe them intellectually, they make sense, but then one day it hits me as being absolutely real. Like, for instance, the pyramid of power and the different organizations and ways that people don't have our best interests at heart. Let's face it, we are the expendable crew members. And it really hit me, and how long this has been going on. And again, I knew all this intellectually, I knew all this spiritually, but I had to go through another dark night of the soul and recognize it, and then come back to, okay, Karen, what is important? Well, what is important for me, number one, losing fear of death is huge. It's so freeing, and to not be afraid of a punishing God, that's another huge one. And so I think as long as we're afraid, we're controlled. It's easy to control us, whether we're afraid of the ETs, whether we're afraid of the government, whether we're afraid of the Illuminati, whatever, right? Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to ramble too much. Just wanted to throw that out there.
No, you're doing great, man. You're hitting the nail right on the head, man. It's crazy stuff, Ryan, you've been watching too many movies, okay? Now. But yes, Karen, you're so right. The spirituality thing of it all. I think that, a lot of that comes with age, in the sense that when you lived on the planet before all this technology hit, you have a little bit of a different perspective, and you internalize a little bit differently, and your outlook, your spirituality, everything's a lot different because it's just what you've experienced and what you know. And you look at, humans that have had all this technology saturating them since they were born. It's got to be really trippy, because especially the misinformation, there's just a zillion of it on both sides. Like we talk about all the time. There's a 1,000 million videos on how bad coffee is for you, and there's 1,000 million videos on how good coffee is for you. And that goes with everything. It doesn't matter what the subject is. Mm-hmm. They give you both sides of the coin, So I have to personally say that, these things, your computer, your iPad, your television, that's where all the information comes from, instead of living life and learning that way without any of that, so good point on that, Karen, with the whole spiritual side of it.
Something funny I've done, Gary, and this is just this week. So I'm really intrigued that you always have something to say about something that relates to my life. And I don't know if it's synchronicity or not, but just this week, I've started to leave the house without the cell phone. I leave the cell phone at home, like a landline, like it used to be. And my wife was like, well, oh my gosh, like I can't track you. Like I said, exactly. And she's like, but oh my gosh, what if something happens? And I said, well, if something happens, I'll do what my parents and their parents before them did. And it's like this, like, oh my gosh, you can't let go of the tether. But I'll tell you, it's only been a week. And leaving the house without the cell phone has turned into something adventurous. Like I actually sit at the stoplight and I can look around. I'm not looking at my screen. I actually talk to people more. I'm not in the line at the grocery store looking at my phone. I'm just present, and it's more like, I think, an adventure, like life is supposed to be. And I think that we close ourselves off from that. And the worst thing might happen. You could get in an accident. You might not be able to call your wife. These things could happen, but you know what? If that's meant to be, that's meant to be. And it is the most freeing thing, I swear. And not only that, it's nice to not be there when people are, because I'm constantly getting like being late today, constantly getting reached out to. And it gives me kind of a break from that. And it's so weird that you mentioned I watch too much TV, because we recently have seen we've seen this recent thing with the World War III, right? And we bombed Iran, and we got these nuclear secret sites and used ventilation shafts with bombs, and it kind of all ties into what we're discussing with Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard, who started Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard did. And, there's a movie called Top Gun 2. And they did exactly what we just did. They shot these missiles down the ventilation shafts and blew up these nuclear secret bases. And what's strange about that is, of course, Tom Cruise is in it, and he's a Scientologist. And the first Top Gun came out 33 years before the second Top Gun. And Tom Cruise has had 3 wives, and each of those he left when they turned 33 years old. And when you start looking at this thing, as you start to like back away from the situation, there's something they call predictive programming. And they talk about how long it took to make this movie Top Gun 2, and how Lockheed Martin made this whole secret aircraft that's not real, but they made it for the movie to look like something that might be real. Well, I could go into that, but
yeah,
there's all of these subtle hints that maybe it's more than a movie, right? That they calculate how many people are going to be watching this, what they can put in there that's palatable, how they can sell it later so that it's not questioned, and people will just assume it's reality. It's absolutely fascinating. And what Gary said about the technology, man, I wonder what the heck those tones were when we used to wait for dial-up, because those things sounded so much like the binaural Monroe Institute. They were crazy sounds that like the millennials will never know.
Yeah. When I was in like the 2nd or 3rd grade, my stepdad worked for IBM in Silicon Valley in the 70s when they were working on the internet. And we would be playing, and we'd pick up the phone, and you'd hear the dial-up modem trip, and he would scream, "Put the phone down!" and we'd put the phone down and run out to the backyard and stuff. But you can see how it was compartmentalized out to certain companies and certain agencies, you know, and it's just crazy because like you didn't have to buy Xbox One, Xbox 2, Xbox 3, or whatever they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of them are like that. PlayStation 5, 6. They could have gave you there's still PlayStation 10 to come. They could have gave it to you 20 years ago, and you still haven't gotten it yet. So like I said, some of this technology that they have will blow your mind, but you can't have that information for another 20, 30 years because they have to keep compartmentalizing it out to you and to their, you know, little puppet companies and stuff. But one thing you do have to always remember is that all the information that all of us get, whether we think it's, you know, alternative information or because I saw it over here, it still all comes from the same source. It comes from DARPA and the Pentagon. So that's where you get all the information from whenever you get on this, whenever you get on your phone or your television. It's coming from the same people.
It is. And I would also add to that that it is, you know, basically they keep telling us that stuff that is real isn't real, and things that aren't real are real. But we're living in this information age where it's really hard to tell what is real and what isn't. And so I see everything that comes through my phone or any of my screens as being, number one, propaganda. All propaganda. All the movies are propaganda. Everything's propaganda. And it's to get us online with whatever country we're living in or identify with or belong to, whatever their agenda is. But now let's throw something else in the mix, AI. So, okay, so they can convince us that UFOs are not real, that transdimensionals aren't real, that demons aren't real, that angels aren't real. They can convince us of almost anything using AI. And I've just noticed recently in my feed on YouTube are these shows that look like they're going to be little mini documentaries. They're going to be really interesting. And as soon as they start, like within just a few seconds, I can tell it's the script is AI generated, the voice is AI generated, the images are AI generated, and I immediately go to my options and click do not suggest this channel. I do that for every single one, but they're just coming up and coming up and coming up. So of course, you know, I'm interested in UFOs and Roswell and all these other alternative things. And guess what's coming up into my feed? And I am very careful, at least at this point, to not watch it. I'd rather watch something grainy from the 1970s, you know, where people are not really sure what's going on. I'd rather that. But with AI, which I think this is not off topic because we started off with Roswell. We morphed that into the technologies that they suddenly came up with, you know, I don't know where. You know, I mean, it was only, I forget how many years, not very many years before Roswell, that the first airplane, like the Wilbur Wright and Orville Wright were, you know, in their little airplanes just taking off. Now look at how fast everything has gone. So I think it's still on topic to follow it along to today where we have AI, and they say we're not at the singularity, but I think we're pretty close. And then the politics in Canada and the United States, they're passing these bills where they go, they're not going to interfere with AI. They're not going to make any rules about it. They're not going to interfere. They're going to let it run its course. And I'm going, oh my God.
Wow. It's
crazy. You know, this something really odd. And this does all, like you said, we're not off topic. This all does come together and coalesce. I love what you said about DARPA, Gary, because there is something that was known as the alien abduction box in the 1970s that had ties to what they call the invisible college now. Players like Robert Bigelow, Jacques Vallée, etc. And Jacques Vallée, for those who aren't familiar, he's one of the main researchers in the UFO enigma. And they had this alien abduction box that people who claim to have been abducted by aliens or harassed or contacted by aliens, these people would bring in a box that for all intents and purposes was a modem. And they said that this was to kind of take measurements, and if they were being abducted, that people would get confirmation of that and be able to help them. Interestingly, this is very top secret, hard to find online. And it's difficult because this, of course, was tied to something that was called the DARPANET or the ARPANET, which basically the ARPANET, also known as the DARPANET, was initiated in 1969 by DARPA, the Advanced Research Projects Agency, Defense Advanced Research.
Yes.
And this is what people aren't realizing is DARPA only does one thing. They militarize technologies. So the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, is a research and development agency responsible for the development of emerging technologies for use by the military, period.
Yes.
And that's where our internet came from.
Exactly. And not only that, when you look at Wi-Fi actually started out, like, Ryan said, as a military weapon. Okay. So in other words, technically, we talk about all this technology that we haven't even learned about yet, that's still there, that we've had for the last, as we're getting compartmentalized, right? One of them is, it's a weapon. So they can actually, we all know that a tank can come in and turn on its Wi-Fi. No one sees it, and they can spray it at a crowd, and the crowd will disperse because they'll just all be like grabbing their head. They can't, the Wi-Fi just scrambles their brain, and that, you don't need any weapons. You don't need any guns. You don't need anything. Just that Wi-Fi disperses the crowd. And what's so scary about it is what they can also do is say, Ryan's getting too close to what's really going on out there. Well, we can turn the Wi-Fi up on his phone so that it gives him a brain tumor, and then he dies. We just turn it up on his device, and it emits, that why people say, like, hey, turn your Wi-Fi off at night before you go to bed, so you have to be really careful with these phones because, and this, all these television and all these, everything that you see, because my grandmother, who was born like in the late 1800s or something, right? Like in the 70s, she said something that still resonates to me to this day. She goes, "Oh, your program is on. Don't you want to watch your programming?" And I thought about that for a second. I'm like, programming? That's exactly what it is. When you watch that stuff, they're programming you. That's why I don't even really go to the movies anymore. It's all CGI. I can't even watch that. And then all of it is just infomercials. 2012 Christian infomercial. It's all got like these same endings about how, these religious overtones and Christianity. And I'm not knocking that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying when, in the 40s and 50s and 60s, when film first came out, you had all these independent people that were making films and doing stuff. So it was really cool. Well, now it's just like anything, whether it's music or movies, if they don't 100% own it, it doesn't get played on their medium.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, another thing I want to just add to that, Gary, is unfortunately, I live in a residence where I don't have any control over the Wi-Fi, and it's on 24/7. But I am lucky enough that I'm now in a residential neighborhood living in a house that's on a block with other houses. But back when I was living in apartments and in um, townhouses where there was thousands and thousands of people in apartment buildings and townhouses grouped very close together, everybody having their Wi-Fi on, I was sick all the time. And when you think about it, all the information that you could possibly access on the internet is all around us all the time. Now, if our computer or phone chooses to tap into one narrow little piece of that, that's not all we're getting. It's all around us all the time. It's affecting everything. It's affecting our health. It's affecting our pets. It's affecting everything. And if that isn't a weapon, I don't know what is. So I just wanted to add that to what you were saying, and everything you guys have said has been right on the money
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned. Now we're quickly running out of time, so what I would love is if Ryan and Gary, if you could take a few minutes and just any other thoughts you're having about Roswell or what's come about since Roswell, or any thoughts you have, please do share them. And then after that, we'll just do a go round. We'll find out what you guys are up to and where people can find you.
Yeah, quickly, I'll just kind of say that we're dealing with people who, by their own admission, give us disinformation. By their own admission, for our own good, is what they tell us. That they will give us disinformation and misinformation to protect classified information that we aren't allowed to know about. And it's very interesting that no matter how high you go up in the military chain of command, when you speak with some of these people, which I've had the luck or maybe the bad luck to do, is that even they don't know what's going on. And I was talking with a gentleman who was driving out to a secretive base, to like he does every day. And he's in his Tesla and he was driving out, and there was something absolutely imperative that he had to know about. And he said that he had left his phone at home, which he never did, but he was driving out to work. And he said that this communication was beamed through his speakers of his Tesla to him, updating him on what was transpiring. And he told me, I didn't know that technology existed.
Wow. Yeah.
So they knew that he didn't have his phone, but he had to know this. And we really, like Gary said, this is what they have is maybe 100 years ahead of what we think they have.
Yes.
That's all I got.
So right, Ryan, man, so right. It's so discouraging because when you really think about it, it's like, you ever like can't find your phone or have someone that can't find their phone? There's this actual level of like insane anxiety that happens. Or it's like, well, where's my phone? Where's my phone? It's like, can't do anything until you find your phone. Mm-hmm. In fact, you even got to go buy a new one and have everything transferred in, and then everything comes back to normal. So for me, what really, really tipped the scales was when I had my last, scare with my eyesight. I basically had to close my eyes for a couple months. And when you close your eyes for a couple months and you detach from Wi-Fi and electronics and the television and movies and anything, you just completely 100% detach from it. You internalize and you realize spiritually how much knowledge you really do have up and beyond all that programming that you've been getting fed. It actually keeps you docile, and it keeps you from experiencing more than just the five senses that you have. There's way more than just, taste, sight, sound. There's intuitiveness, there's telepathy, there's just a whole host of really cool stuff out there that you kind of get taken away from you by these things. Because then when I came back to this, I really noticed one thing that I couldn't even believe. And to this day, I believe it to be 100% true. It's all to divide. You go on and the television, and there's 3 channels that are supposedly news. They're not news. It's just sensationalism and generalizations. There's no news about it, right? But 3 of the channels, nonstop negativity against the red, doesn't end. 24 hours a day. Da 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 da. Raises your blood pressure, like Karen says, invokes fear, nonstop. Then there's 3 channels that are supposed new channels that do the same thing with the blue.
Mhm.
Da 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 da. Nonstop. And when you detach from it for a while, and then you come back and you look at it, you're like, wow, they're not fooling me with this fucking bullshit. So all I can tell everyone is, like Ryan said, take time to throw this thing in the garbage can and go for a walk without it. Or go somewhere without it. Go to a park, go somewhere, because you're going to reconnect with yourself. And that's only if, there's people that have been confined by this their entire life. We haven't. There was a time when we didn't have this, so we can kind of reconnect with that. So I just want to finish by saying that you are truly a special human. You have superpowers and energy way up beyond this technology, and try to tap into that, because that's the real power.
I agree. Both of you, everything you said, fantastic. I frequently go shopping or go for a walk and do not take my phone because, first of all, it's nobody's damn business where I'm going and what I'm doing. Second of all, it's a bit of a dopamine detox. You know what I mean? I need to get used to not having it around me, and so there's that. So I do that regularly as well, and there are times where I won't. I just really limit my screen time. I do the best I can with what I have, which I think is pretty much all you can do. I want to just say hi to Helena. Thank you for joining us today. And Lord Spike Protein. He's a big Gmail fan, and I see him over on your channel all the time.
Yeah, he's
And of
awesome.
course, Lisa Noel. And anyway, so I think these are people from over on your channel. So thank you so much for joining us today. Before we do our last go round, I just want to make an announcement. Next Sunday, on my other podcast called the Aliens and Angels podcast, I'm going to be giving a free giveaway, some really cool gifts, and all you have to do is show up to the live. So those who have been, I've been keeping track, writing down the list of everybody who has been showing up for my podcasts. So next Sunday, show up again, and I'll do some kind of a random draw, and we'll select some names, and you guys will get some really cool products. And I'm not sure what the topic will be, but I'm sure it will be interesting. So with that, I just want to, Ryan, you want to tell everybody what you're up to? And I mean, the stuff you want to share. And I got to watch how I say things, and where people can find you.
Yeah, I'm up to trying to find out where this individual that said they went off planet is. And then I'm in all reality, I wanted to quickly interject that something Gary said is super important. And if nobody's ever read a book called The Day After Roswell, where a gentleman named Colonel Philip Corso talks about working for a foreign advanced technology board and getting reverse engineered parts from Kraft and basically seeding them out to places like IBM, GE, different companies to make things like this for us. Very, very, very good book. And I'll leave it at that. Yeah, everything I'm up to, you can keep track of at heroparanormal.com or Hero Paranormal on social media. And yeah, definitely check out the podcast. It's on YouTube. And thanks so much for listening. It's always a pleasure talking to you guys. You guys are, you're like modern Zen gurus. Every time I talk to you, my day is better.
Right on.
Aw, awesome. Gary, what are you up to? And do you have a festival in the works?
I have a festival coming up August 2nd. It's called Summer Fun Fest. It's going to be my 9th concert festival. And it's basically just rounding up the usual suspects. It's a great little community of about 40, 50 people that come to I have an open mic where I only live stream every Saturday night. So whether I'm doing an open mic or I'm doing a festival or I'm doing an award show or I'm just doing a panel on a holiday, it's every Saturday night you can come catch me. With me, my channel is basically 100% music. It's all good times. There's no politics. There's no religion. There's no, anything other than just music and making people feel good, because I feel that it gives people a break, because we all know how barraged we are with all this stuff out there. It's a never ending attack. So it kind of gives you a place once a week to just go and listen to some music and make some friends, like we used to do a long time ago. But Karen, thank you for having me on the show. Everyone in chat, love you so much. Thanks for being here. You are awesome.
Yeah, and I want to thank you also, Gary, for getting all these awesome images and MP4s and stuff ready for the show today. I really, really appreciate it very much. So everybody, the links are in the description below so that you can find Ryan and you can find Gary. I highly recommend his music show every Saturday night. I often pop in for a while. I go to bed early, so but I still pop in for a while. I love it. And I love the community. Oh, wow. There is never any hassles in the community, nothing but love and super cool people. I want to thank all of you who joined us in the live chat today, and also those that are watching on the replay and the audio podcast. If you're watching the audio, you might want to come over and watch the video so that you can see all the great images and videos that Gary had on the show today. And so that's about it for today. I'm sending much love to each and every one of you. Hope you have the best week ever, and we'll see you Sunday for the free giveaway if you can make it. Love to have you. Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Read about my true life ET contact in my book called Transdimensional: Meet the New Neighbors, which is now available in Amazon bookstores worldwide. Check out my website at www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.